Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in Gashul. I'm a link in Amita's golden chain of love which stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that what I do now depends not only on my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amita's golden chain of love become bright and strong. May we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amidavits. Namo Amidavits. Namo Amidavits. Namam Daps. Namam Daps. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me today on the Arizona Buddhist Temple's annual Pet Hoji Memorial Service. And a Pet Hoji Memorial Service is a day when we reflect on the lives of our many companions, our furry companions, our feathered companions that have passed in and out of our lives, and the truly profound impact that they have had on us. And whether it's a family pet from your childhood, or an animal, or like a fur baby that you've had recently in your life, animals play an important role not only in our daily lives but also in our understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. Now, sometimes they can teach us things like mindfulness, like when we're training pets for the first time, and we sacrifice a few rugs and, some sleep along the way. Or it's the lessons of loss, right? When we have to say goodbye to them at the ends of their lives, which we've all experienced in some way before, and it's incredibly difficult. Animals are always teaching us different lessons about what it means to live and what it means to truly care about one another. I mean, there are many people in our lives that don't truly teach us this lesson, and yet animals, the ones that we hold closest to us, absolutely convey these ideas to us and help us deeper understand them. And this is one of the things that we want to think about, and also one of the reasons that we love them so much for. In the Buddhist tradition, we recognize that every single life has value and is, of course, interconnected to every other life that exists. We recognize that each living being is also born with Buddha nature, which means that every living creature can achieve enlightenment eventually. As thus, when we hold a pet hoji, as we are today, we're reflecting on all the different ways that we can reflect on the teachings of the Buddha and how our understanding of the Buddha can deepen as we have been taught by these creatures that have come in and out of our lives and played this truly, truly important impact on who we are and how we understand the world. And our time with them is brief. It's all too brief. And if you've lost a pet in the past, my sincerest apologies, because I've been there, and I think many of us have been there, and it is truly, truly difficult. And today we want to honor their memory by thinking about them as individuals, but also to really show our gratitude for all the time that we've shared together. So one story that I want to share with you comes from my collection of pets that I've had in the past. And I've talked a lot about some of my different pets, and I kind of think about my pets as having marked different stages of my life in a lot of ways. I had a childhood dog that was Maya, and my adult life when I became an adult and finished college and started up a career and got married, I had Abby, and she was kind of like my dog during that period of time. Two of my pets in the middle stage of my life, like from high school through college, that kind of area, were family pets, and those were Mitzi and Georgie. And I can't describe one without describing the other, because those two were essentially inseparable from one another and almost acted as a collective unit for the entire time that I knew them. Mitzi was a big, staunch, kind of sturdy dog, and was very much like the alpha of the pack, and would guide all the other animals around her. She was kind of like the stable force. And then Georgie was this adorable little tiny schnauzer who would yip and talk constantly, and basically was the polar opposite of Mitzi in this regard. But for whatever reason, those two were a perfect inseparable pair in a lot of ways. And they basically were my childhood pets from my high school years all the way through my college years. The other thing, though, talking about this idea of having them being connected to one another, the other when also can't think about Mitzi and Georgie without really thinking about my father as well, because he always had Mitzi and Georgie with him. They were always connected together, like almost as if they were his shadow in a lot of ways, an inseparable group, if you will. And I can actually picture their daily routine for the better part of like 10 years. It was something like this. They would get up in the morning and he would give them cheese first of all, right, in the morning as like their like kind of gift. And he would like, go to work or work at home depending on the situation. But when he would come home, they would scream as loud as they could and run up and they would like greet him at the gate. And then he would take a nap and then go outside and then spend like an hour of his day in our backyard, just like hitting golf balls to them, like in the backyard. He would work in his chipping game, and the dogs would chase after the golf balls in every possible direction and fetch them and bring them back. And then he would do it again and just do this over and over and over again. And this is kind of like I guess it was kind of like his meditation time or something. But the dogs, it was also their time to like all bond together. Then, of course, there was going to be dinner time, and they would get like human food because they were incredibly spoiled. And then they would have evening TV time where they would all like sit on the couch and watch TV together. And George especially would always think that like whatever was happening on TV was real and would like attentively watch what was happening on TV, which I always thought was interesting. And Mitzi was like, whatever, it doesn't bother me at all. And as a result of this routine that they had together, I almost like can't picture the three of them as separate from one another. Like I always think about Mitzi with Georgie, and when I think about them, I can't help but remember my father along with them. It's all tied together. So anyway, like they would spend a lot of their time hitting golf balls and like hanging out in the backyard. It was kind of like their pastime together. My father would practice his chipping game. They would chase them around, like I said. And they again, my backyard used to be pretty big, so they would just like run all over the place and get a bunch of exercise. Unfortunately, having a big backyard also has some downfalls to it. For example, we also lived next to like a kind of an empty lot for a long period of time after our neighbors moved away and didn't sell the property initially. It just sort of sat there. And when you have like a big lot and you're out next to a big empty lot, especially in the Phoenix area, it kind of has some difficulties that come along with it, namely in the form of coyotes and like javelinas and those sorts of things. So every once in a while, you would wake up in the morning and you'd like peek outside the window and you would see like an animal just like running around in the backyard that wasn't yours, like a pack of javelinas that were like eating the berries that had fallen off the mulberry trees. Or you'd see these coyotes that were just like prancing around back there, jumping in and out of the yard. So, as a pet owner, this is obviously very concerning because the coyotes especially are a threat to little dogs. And, my two dogs were very small. They were one of them, especially Schnauzers, was very much like the perfect meal for like a mid-sized coyote. And so when we started to see them in the backyard more and more, it created a big stir. And especially when we started to hear like messages and rumors percolating from our neighborhood that cats had gone missing and like little dogs had started to disappear, it kind of reached like a fever pitch. And this especially really like made my dad really concerned and nervous because, again, he loved these two dogs and basically treated them as if they were equal members of the household. And truth be told, my dad would do literally anything to protect them. And so the presence of a coyote or pack of coyotes in the backyard was very upsetting to him. And so he decided that he was going to start doing something about these pets. So what he started doing was a couple different things. First of all, he started keeping a BB gun and a baseball bat at the front of the house just in case he would see any of these animals. And he never used either of them, but they were there for like peace of mind, right? He was going to like shoot the coyote with a BB gun or chase them away with a baseball bat if he ever saw them. Now, it's kind of foolish. I don't think he would have been able to hit them and those sorts of things. But he came to another plan eventually. And the second plan that he had to protect his darling dogs was to actually spend his evenings with a new part of the routine. After he would hit golf balls to all the dogs, what he actually started to do was he would get on top of his John Deere lawnmower, like those green riding lawnmowers, and he would ride around in the backyard and patrol the backyard for like 15, 20 minutes every night, like right at dusk. And he would like rev the engine as loud as he could, and he would like go from one end of the place to the other. And basically the goal of this was to kind of like make a lot of noise and to like scare the coyotes away, because we kind of suspected they were kind of hiding out in like the surrounding areas. And he figured that these loud noises and the revving of the engine and his presence would keep the predators at bay. And even after that, so we don't know if it actually worked or not, because fortunately our pets were never attacked by coyotes or anything like that. But even after Georgie and Mitzi eventually kind of passed away, he kept doing this for like the other dogs that came after them to make sure that like they were safe. So he would just keep doing this. And, he'd patrol the lawn for predators, have that baseball bat, that BB gun next to the door. And he did this because he loved them. Like, he truly didn't want anything bad to ever happen to him. I think we could all sympathize with that. Like, we would do anything to protect our pets. Like, people do crazy things to protect their pets. They go out of their ways to save them in ways that, you would even struggle to even comprehend sometimes. I know I would, personally, for my pets. And it's kind of funny, because as I think about these sorts of things now, it wasn't just my father, though, who was thinking this way about constantly protecting the people that you love and care about. But in a weird sort of way, my father would not go anywhere out of the house without these two accompanying him. And I actually feel like the inverse of it was actually true as well. It wasn't just my father protecting Mitzi and George, but from the perspective of George and Mitzi, they were always protecting him as well. As I think about it now, he never left without these two dogs like around with him. And the way that they surrounded him all the time was exactly what he was doing, protecting them, protecting him. Georgie especially was his constant companion, his shadow. Wherever he went, she went. And whatever he did, she was part of. They would have literal conversations and like talk to each other after work. She was a very vocal dog, and he would just like talk to her and those sorts of things. They would walk together, eat together. They were a pair. And Georgie was, I guess the best word would be like hyper vigilant of everything that he did and what everyone else did in the household at all points in time. If there was ever a slight noise or a movement, she would bark as loud as she can, like classic shrieking schnauzer bark, and alert everybody in the household as to anything that happened. Any kind of lurking dangers around the corner. If there were people on walks, she would be like the dog that would kind of like get to the front and kind of like warn everybody about it. I mean, she was tiny and wasn't going to be able to do anything about like an oncoming dog or anything like that. But she was always trying to warn people constantly. And Mitzi was the strong physical one. And she was always like protecting everyone around her, protecting Georgie, protecting the cats, protecting my father, protecting my mother, everybody, right? In other words, while they were not necessarily the most actually menacing or fearsome or frightening guard dogs, they were perhaps the most caring guard dogs we've ever had. Because while we were protecting them, the truth of the matter is they were always protecting us as well. Like I said previously, we would do anything to protect our pets, to protect them from, because they're part of our families and we love them. But they would do anything for us as well. And having pets teaches us to recognize this, to be mindful of this. Realistically, having a pet is all about teaching us about this concept of mindfulness and compassion. It teaches us to care for other living things, but also to value all manners of life, even that which seem different from ourselves. Like I read the Golden Chain this morning, right? I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. We endeavor to this standard set forth by the Buddha, and it's hard to be mindful of all living creatures, but having a pet really does help us understand that. It teaches us that every living thing has value, has merit, and is, of course, worth protecting. And again, I can tell you from the past that my pets have exhibited this teaching as well, because they were protecting us in the same way that we were protecting them. I said that all living beings have Buddha nature. Well, pets are this perfect example, right? They bring us a dead bird because they think we can't hunt. They bark at strangers. They warn us of dangers. They watch our every single move, and they calculate everything that's happening around us because they don't want anything to happen to us. It goes both ways, right? In a lot of ways, maybe we are the weaker beings that need protection, and they're aware of that. Maybe we're just emotionally a little bit more weaker than they are. They are devoted, and this kind of gentle nature teaches us how to be better people, stronger people than we would be otherwise. They teach us to care not only for them, but for others all the time, teaching us these important lessons with every kind act. And they don't do so mindfully, but through how they live, through their actions. They bring us closer to truly understanding the teachings of the Buddha. Right? I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. And you're going to miss them when they're gone, and you do miss them now, and that doesn't get easier. But thinking about how much they cared for us and we cared for them, it fills you with gratitude. It fills me with gratitude thinking about how happy I was to have them with me and how grateful I was to have something care about you that much, even if it was only for a short period of time. Having them pass through our lives reminds us that life is frail and it is fleeting, and how attachment is fundamentally the root of suffering in the world. But it also reminds us that it's worth it, right? And their time with us, while short, is precious. And we should not take it for granted. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amidabits, Namo Amidabits, Namo Amidabits, Namam Daps, Namam Daps, Namam.